The Humanity Party Preamble. American reform movements have seldom been successful at registering a new party and appointing proper leadership to compete with the current and dominant Democratic and Republican parties. Finding a person with integrity and courage to lead a new party is often difficult. Appointed leaders of reform parties can easily be corrupted by power and greed. The Humanity Party, THumP, has no confirmed leaders. It is led by the voice of each person who supports its platform. Presently, properly supporting the Humanity Party consists of legally registering to vote and casting your vote by entering the Humanity Party in the write-in option. Rejecting all of the registered and approved candidates sends a message that we no longer accept the status quo of the current government and that we demand real change. The Humanity Party does not appoint leaders nor accept donations in an effort to protect our party's intent and purpose by eliminating the possibility of corruption by special interest groups, lobbyists, and corporate PACs, political action committees. The Humanity Party's political platform acts as the party's official manifesto. It encompasses our views and political points and ideals. This manifesto includes our beliefs, but most importantly, their application to real life. Our party line revolves around three basic inalienable human rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Without life, there would be no need for liberty. Without liberty, there could be no individual pursuit of happiness. Whereas the pursuit of happiness is an individual search for joy that variably differs according to each person's unique desires, governments should not exist to deter from or intervene into any singular individual pursuit of happiness. Proper government should exist to guarantee and support our ability to live, our right to life, and protect us, our right to liberty, in our individual pursuits of happiness, allowing each of us to choose our own form of happiness and feel equally safe and secure in its pursuit. Life. None of us asked to be born into this world. Upon reaching a set age of maturity, we are forced into slavery in a society that is not set up to support the pursuit of happiness, but instead is structured to support its own unfair and unequal economic policies. For every one person who can claim success in reaching the world's standard of accepted self-awareness and prosperity, there are 99 others who suffer from the means that this one utilizes to achieve success. But they, the 99%, do not have the ability to obtain it for themselves. In the race to be counted of worth in a world of values and standards set to benefit those who set the parameters and rules of the competition, little attention is paid to the devastating effects of the contest. Freedom is an abstract idea perpetuated by those in power over others and used to deceive us. Evident forced slavery has simply been replaced with tacit slavery. Rising to the sound of a rooster's crow and being forced to harness the mule to the plow has just been replaced. Today, there is the obtrusive sound of an alarm clock that signals the beginning of another enslaved day at a job that most of us do not find consistent with our pursuit of happiness. Slavery implies that we are forced to work to enrich someone else while earning just enough for our basic necessities. Owners do not hire us to make us wealthy and financially independent, unless in so doing, they are also enriched in the process. Financial independence implies that we do not have to work or depend on another for the means that sustain our lives. When we are forced to work for another, we become dependent on them and their desire for personal wealth. We are forced to work, or we will be counted as unsuccessful and unimportant in the world, or we will die. The former imprisoned slave was provided food, clothing, and shelter from the master. Modern slaves are given a piece of paper, a paycheck, that must be exchanged for commodities owned by another slave owner in order for the slave to survive in the world. The slave's desire to live ensures an abundance of workers and enriches the landowners, the company owners, for whom they work. The merchant, from whom he or she is forced to purchase things that sustain life, is another master. Former slaves were forced into chains if work and rules were not completed as established by the master. The modern slave is locked in a jail cell for the same reasons. People do not choose to be born into slavery. Most would have rather been born the child of a slave owner, one who never saw the butt end of a mule pulling a harrow, or one who will never hear the sound of a time punch clock. Though modern business owners do not outwardly display their employees as personal human property, the slave trade has been transformed into a shared commodity of the corporations and wealthy of the world. Within the commercial organizations that buy and sell goods, make products, and provide services, there exists the proprietary implication that if one slave refuses to work for a company in order to remain alive, the rebellious runaway must submit to another. By running away from one plantation, a corporation, the need to eat and be clothed and housed necessitates the reliance on another master. Governments should exist to eliminate slavery and ensure that anyone born into this world is guaranteed equal rights to life and the support of that life until death relieves them from the involuntary obligation of existence. The rights to life include basic nutritious food, clothing, shelter, health care, both physical and mental, and the opportunity for an education. A proper government must provide these basic human necessities without charge through social programs or by providing the means whereby a person can obtain these rights through gainful and fulfilling employment. The obligation to protect and promote human life is required and expected and should be a government's greatest and only responsibility. Liberty. Liberty implies that we are free from arbitrary or despotic government or control, that we are sovereign and independent and free from external or foreign rule, that we are free from interference, obligation, restriction, and hampering conditions, that we have the right and power to do, think, and speak according to our individual choice, that we are free from unwarranted captivity, confinement, or physical restraint. For the majority, true liberty has never existed in the United States of America. The American dream is exactly that, a dream. The image that America presents to the world is a deception. American prosperity and innovation deceives the world into thinking that the product of the American free market economy affects all Americans equally. Nothing could be further from the truth. The American dream quickly fades into unattainable goals that only a few who have the proper economic numbers, money, to support them can attain. The numbers calculated in setting the value of money are abstractly and randomly applied to human life. We invented money and the values that we accept of it. Therefore, we can control money through the proper government regulations. Uncontrolled, money leaves a mark of depression and hopelessness embedded deeply in the hands, the action and work, and foreheads, the thoughts of the dreamers. True liberty cannot be attained unless a government that is empowered by the people empowers the people in return and protects them in their individual pursuits and desires of happiness. True liberty does not include force. It does not include being forced to work at a job that one does not like in order to enrich another so that the other does not have to work. Liberty is not being forced to submit to laws that do not protect one's freedom of individual choice. Proper government should only establish laws that protect each person's liberty from being affected by another person's. Yet these laws should not impede, deter, or define either's individuality or happiness. The pursuit of happiness.
It has to do with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery. The amendment reads, in part, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, shall exist within the United States." All of that made perfect sense to me, minus this one part, except as a punishment for crime.
The United States of America incarcerates more of its citizens than any other nation on earth. Current laws are not equitable across economic lines. U.S. law protects economic success and punishes economic failure. People are locked up in U.S. prisons, not because lawmakers are afraid of them, because they are dangerous to society, but because they are angry with them for not meeting the standards of success implied by the American dream and the image of successful living that lawmakers have set for themselves. Incarceration has become the response to all our societal problems. If a person does not meet the same standards and ideals in that person's pursuit of happiness as the lawmakers, that person becomes a criminal. going to school, having a career, and forming a family according to preconceived and set standards of those with the money and means to reach these goals, dehumanizes those without the means. This disparity in opportunity restricts the poor to a non-contributory part of a desired society. Most incarcerated offenders are sentenced for non-violent acts or omissions. Drugs are the main offense that lands many pursuers of happiness in prison. Instead of our government concentrating on why people take drugs, its lawmakers concentrate on their own inexperienced perception of a drug user. Yet many of these same lawmakers abuse legal pharmaceutical drugs that they have approved by law to counter the very same symptoms that affect the illegal drug user. Depression from failure is the main reason why people use drugs. In their effort to justify their own depression, lawmakers approve their own solutions and in the process gain thereby. Pharmaceutical corporations make more contributions to current political campaigns than most other political contributors. There are less expensive and more abundant natural means that perform the same effects as expensive pharmaceutical drugs. These natural drugs include nutritious foods. Too expensive for the average person, proper nutrition that can prevent disease and relieve depression, especially if it is provided free of charge, takes a back seat to the profits that are made by countering the effects of a poor diet. If one makes a lot of money, that person is successful and applauded by society. The successful are supported by the government through laws that approve and praise success and the value of riches, while discounting success in health and strength. No one can pursue happiness without a healthy body and mind. Government's first priority in the support of the individual pursuit of happiness must be the physical and emotional health of its citizens. Emotional health is just as important as physical health. Emotional health is supported when an individual feels self-worthy and of value to the society in which that person exists. Proper government must exist to empower and support the individual in setting personal standards for happiness without the government setting its own standards and imposing them by law. The only way to protect and support individual life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is for the people themselves to define the parameters by which these vital, inalienable rights are protected and supported by their government. This can only be done through established law supported by a constitution that is written for the people and by the people, and not one written by those who support their own personal standardization of life, liberty, and happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness mean different things to different people across a wide variety of economic cultures and ideologies. The least among the people, the poor, downtrodden, and uneducated, who are the majority of Earth's inhabitants, should have a strong voice in establishing the laws that control their lives. If laws established to support and protect the least among us, these same laws will also support the greatest. If law supports only the greatest, then the least suffer irreparably because of their failure to meet the expectations of being valued as great, and the flawed laws that are only established to reward this greatness. However, if humanity could reevaluate what great, being successful, and least, being unsuccessful, mean, and make both valued equally as the free will choice of the individual, then humans would naturally establish governments that are equal and fair. Because this probability is unlikely, the majority of people need to act and take control of the powers of their government that they expect and deserve. The failure of government. The entire world's economic, political, and social structures are in danger of imminent failure and collapse. If the foundation and political powers that control these institutions are not changed and reformed, within a few decades human society will be irreversibly affected. Without drastic change, widespread hopelessness, poverty, and inequality will spread and continue to cause more human misery than at any other time during the recorded history of Earth. The existence of poverty and inequality offer proof of the failed policies of governments, religions, charities, and other groups that have tried and failed to provide solutions. Wars and terrorism have increased without any answer or humane opposition. The cultures and nations that support different types of human societies can be destroyed through military action. But this will not eliminate terrorism fed by poverty and hopelessness. The root of the problem is not the societies that humans have created, but the ideologies that they hold in their hearts. No amount of physical force can change ideology and belief. The human mind, empowered by free will, naturally reacts to defend itself, in spite of the physical forces that threaten it. When given the chance to act, humans are motivated, not by their surroundings, but by their hearts. Governments depend on force and threat to maintain control over the people. Governments might control the people's physical outward actions, but it cannot control their minds. Until a government exists that supports the free will of the human mind, without attempting to force its will upon the people, war and terrorism will continue. The United States power and example. There is only one nation that is fully structured and endowed with the infrastructure, government, world influence, technology, means, and military might needed to step forward and save this world, the United States of America. If it fails, then all nations shall fail behind it. Although the United States of America has the potential to save the world, its established government has failed and continues to fail, not only the American people, but also the entire human population of Earth. The United States came into existence by a group of humans who were determined to establish a sovereign nation and institute their own laws based on their personal wants and needs. Without regard for the native inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere, they immigrated to a new land, overran it, and called it their own. Secure in their newly found territory, they made a declaration of independence from the governmental powers and laws that controlled their lives. In so doing, they established the most powerful and comprehensive human society ever known upon Earth. America's economic structure and purpose drastically changed the course of human events and influences a world that revolves around its own perpetuation. America's powerful presence affects the present course and future of all humanity. If it fails, the world will crumble around it. Consequently, only the people who perpetuate it and give it its power and authority can keep it from failing. Accepting this fact, and that this nation is increasingly failing to bring the peace and happiness once promised, the people of this earth must unite together to reinforce its foundation before its walls crumble. Once separated from all other nations of the earth, the United States uniquely developed under the hope and belief that all humankind possessed the guaranteed inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This belief, however, was never fully realized, and from the onset of establishing an unprecedented government, the United States leaders began deceiving the people. The United States Constitution, along with the initial system of law that supported it, separated human beings into groups of power and opportunity. From the beginning, the United States government did not treat Native and African Americans, the indentured, and women as equally deserving of these natural rights. Although in later years, the United States has shown some effort in equalizing the representation of those initially ostracized, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has yet to be realized except by a few. The illusion of equality remains. The United States has become the most powerful nation on earth, not through principles of humane government and legislation, but through the application of its economic and military power forced upon its own citizens and upon other nations. Instead of protecting the inalienable rights of all of its citizens equally, the United States has established and enforced laws to protect those who directly benefit from the legislation and enforcement of these laws. As mentioned, by its unique design and proven prosperity for the few, the United States retains the infrastructure of government, laws, business, and society that could be an ensign and example to the world. But because its government is not focused on the rights of all people so that they benefit equally from its existence, the United States government continues to protect the few in spite of the majority. Three principles of law of a humane government. Proper and humane government for the people, by the people, and of the people must be structured on the following three principles. The first principle and law of government is that government shall never be self-serving, or in other words, it shall never act in and of itself and of its own accord or for the sake of its own existence. Government must be restricted in its powers to ensure that it abides by this first principle and law. Government must serve those whom benefit from its existence, and only those who benefit from its existence are those who should give it the power that it exercises over them. The second principle and law of this government is that it will guarantee the freedom or the free will of all those whom it serves. This second law and principle enables government to establish laws that restrict those whom it serves from infringing on the free agency of another, or from having another infringe on their free will. This second principle and law restricts government from doing anything that infringes upon the free agency of those whom it serves, except in the defense of their individual free will. The third principle and law of this government, and the most important, is that it shall provide the means whereby those whom it serves may have an equal opportunity to experience the happiness that they desire. Government must provide these things that are necessary to fulfill the measure and purpose for the existence of those whom it serves, which purpose is the pursuit of individual happiness. The Humanity Party is not delusional in believing that the appointment of any popular politician or celebrity will produce a successful challenge to the two-party Republican or Democratic candidates. The Humanity Party's first objective is to give the people hope and educate them about the power of their vote. The Humanity Party offers a united and equal face to each and every person who legally registers to vote and then uses the write-in option to send a clear and powerful message to the balloted candidates. The Humanity Party hopes that THumP wins the majority of votes and sends a strong message to the political powers that control our lives. It is our intent to send a message to government authorities that we demand drastic changes, and most importantly, that we provide the solutions and define the change that we desire.